What is going on, guys? Chris here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, definitely consider subscribing, as my goal for 2021 is 5,000 subscribers. Now, this is a problem that I know a lot of people are suffering with if they have a Canon R5 or an R6, as both of them have the same kind of stabilization system. Now, this actually happens to be probably one of the biggest problems with these cameras, and it seems like it's a very big drawback for a lot of people because it's very limiting when shooting on wide-angle lenses. In today's video, I'm going to show you what I do to get really smooth footage without too much wobble, as I've actually been getting a lot of comments from people saying, why is your footage so smooth when you're shooting handheld, and why is there no wobble? So basically, I'm going to tell you the secrets that I use that allow me to get amazing handheld footage with not too much wobble. Now, first thing I'm going to talk about is the camera, the hardware, because that's some really important information I need to share with you. First of all, the lens I'm shooting on is the Canon 16-35 f2.8 non-stabilized. This is a non-stabilized lens, just to let you know that none of the shots I get are actually stabilized by the lens at all. The next thing that's really important for me is the battery grip. I shoot with a battery grip on my camera. It doesn't make a very drastic difference, as using the techniques I'm going to tell you actually worked without the battery grip at all, but shooting handheld with a battery grip definitely helps. With a more heavy build and more points of contact allow you to get generally smoother handheld shots. So this is my setup. This is the Canon 16-35 f2.8 non-stabilized, as well as the Canon VG-R10. I don't know, the Canon names are really confusing. This is the official Canon battery grip for the Canon R5 and the R6. Now, obviously, the first thing that you want to do is zoom in as much as you can, and that's something that I tried to do. Now, granted, I've gotten almost perfect shots shooting all the way at 16 millimeters, so zooming in definitely hides the wobble. For me, anything past 25-30 millimeters has absolutely no wobble. You do have a significant amount of wobble when you're shooting 15, 16, all the way to about 20 millimeters. That's why I really love shooting on the 24 millimeters f1.4 art lens by Sigma, because it doesn't have that much wobble and that lens is freaking beautiful. So anyways, so zoom in as much as you can, depending on the shot you get. Because the IBIS is so strong in this camera, with further reaching lenses, you get amazing stabilization. For example, when I shoot with the 100 to 400 millimeters, granted, this is a stabilized lens, the footage is impeccable. I don't even need a tripod, really. The next thing that's really important, although it may seem kind of obvious, is to shoot in the highest resolution possible. If you're shooting with the Canon R5, shoot in 8K as much as you can. If you're shooting with the Canon R6, shoot in 4K as much as you can. Because there might be some times where you need some warp stabilizer or some sort of stabilization software to smooth out your footage. And the higher the resolution is, the better the final image will look once it's stabilized. So yeah, pretty obvious, but just making sure you guys remember that. And another thing that I've actually noticed is for people shooting on the Canon 15-35, I've noticed a significant amount of wobble compared to the 16 millimeters. And that's actually something that kind of bothered me when I was considering buying the RF 15-35. And that's because when you're vlogging, you're not gonna remember like, oh, there's wobble in my camera, so let me shoot at 16 millimeters instead of 15. You're gonna just put it as wide as you can and just work from there. So knowing that when I just zoom all the way out, there's not too much wobble is really good. But there still is some, so let's talk about it. And when you're shooting handheld like this, there will be a little bit of wobble as you move left and right, and that's really not avoidable. You just try to hold it as still as you can, and if you can, like I said before, try zooming in a little bit, as that covers a lot of the wobble. But let me show you what I do when I'm shooting B-roll handheld. Okay, so let's take a subject. We need a subject. I'm just gonna take this lens right here, and I'm gonna set it up right in the middle here. Let me create a bit of a set here, so. Okay, wait, put this lens here, this lens there, hide this behind here. So we got this lens, this one we're gonna put it on the right, this one on the left, and this one back here. So this is gonna be our set. So yeah, although this is the setup I used when vlogging, I'm gonna try to take things off that I definitely don't need, like a GorillaPod, as well as the microphone up top. As when I'm shooting B-roll, I don't really need the sound. So I'm gonna shoot this with as few accessories around the camera as possible, obviously disregarding the battery grip because that just feels great in the hands. Now, what's really important here? Obviously, I'm gonna bring it to 16 millimeters. Next thing I'm gonna do is have it shoot at 4K at 50 frames per second, or in other words, slow motion, just so I can get some smooth slow motion footage. Now, what I found is that the worst wobble comes from motion like this. The wobble you get when you pivot your lens left and right like this is the worst. So what I'm gonna try to do is really minimize the motion of left and right, and really kind of force my hands to just move straight forward. And as you can see from the footage, it looks really good. Now this is unstabilized and all that. Now pay attention to my body. I'm rocking, I know you guys can't really see it, but I'm rocking my legs back and forth in a motion. I'm not walking. I'm gonna try to avoid walking as much as I can, as obviously walking is gonna introduce extra movement. So I'm just pivoting my body back and forth like this. Obviously, if you have to walk, you can walk. And what you're gonna wanna do when you're walking is just do the ninja walk. It's like making your body a gimbal in a way. It's like your upper body does not feel the up and down movement of your walking based on your knees bending, if that makes sense. Another thing that's really important for me and that helped a lot is trying not to fight it too much. Now, fighting the left and right pivot has caused me to get more unnatural shakes. If I'm feeling like weak on one side, I'll just kind of veer off with the camera left or right, and that just makes sure that the movement stays natural, because I would prefer a shot that may veer off a little bit and then I can slowly bring it back instead of a shot that has like this wobble sensation that looks really robotic and ugly. And I feel like when I try to fight the movement, or I'm just thinking too much about avoiding all the wobble, I kind of tense up and the movements don't end up being natural. So yeah, let me get some B-roll of this and just pay attention to my movements. So the first shot I want to get, which is the one I did before, which is the moving back shot like this. Now there should be pretty much no wobble on this, even though it is using the stabilization and all that. The next shot I'm gonna get is just a side motion like this. Now obviously my legs are doing the same thing. I'm avoiding trying to, move around like this. This is obviously going to introduce more shake. So you're definitely going to have to practice these techniques. This took a little while getting accustomed to. When I shot on the Canon EOS R, I knew that all my footage needed to be stabilized as there was no IBIS in the camera. But having this IBIS kind of forced me to, pay attention to my movements and all more so I can get smooth shots. Now obviously with something like this, I can zoom into 35 and have movement with little to no wobble if I want, using the technique I mentioned before about zooming in when you can. Another technique I'm going to talk about is holding the camera. I'm trying to be very solid with it, but relaxed. I'm not super tense when holding it, as that's going to introduce micro shakes that the IBIS is going to try to counter, which will obviously cause more wobble. But I just want to hold it in a comfortable way like this. I found that having the battery grip just feels great in the hands. So holding it like this, a couple fingers on the lens, and then holding this side just like normal allows me to get very smooth B-roll. So hopefully this was helpful for you. If it's not, then let me know in the comments and I'll try to help you out in your situation. I personally don't like shooting with a gimbal. They're really heavy and cumbersome, and they kind of just restrict me from my movements. I've gotten pretty good at getting smooth handheld shots with this camera, and I feel like you can as well if you practice it. If you like this video, definitely drop a like down below. Wait, why am I continuing this on my phone? I can go back to this camera. Thank you so much for watching. If this was helpful, definitely drop a like down below and check out my other videos, as I do tutorials about photography, camera stuff, and I'm doing a lot of stuff with the Canon R6 right now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.